The story of Oak Island has always felt like a doorway into the past. Every step across its soil brings up new questions, old clues, and hints of something hidden for centuries. People from around the world have followed the search, hoping that one day the island will finally reveal the truth it has guarded for so long. Now, new discoveries have breathed new life into the mystery. Evidence has begun to suggest that a long-lost cargo carried centuries ago by skilled hands may have finally been found. These discoveries are not wild guesses or imagined tales. They come from real artifacts dug from the earth, each one carrying the weight of history. And as the team on Oak Island continues to investigate, it becomes clear that the mystery is far deeper than anyone expected. The morning began with fresh determination. Rick and Marty, along with their loyal team, returned to the swamp, a strange triangular shape of land that has baffled scholars for decades. Many believe that the swamp is not natural at all. Instead, it might be a man-made hiding place, shaped hundreds of years ago to cover something valuable. As the team geared up, Gary stepped forward with his usual mix of humor and excitement, hoping he would not get caught in the mud again, but eager to uncover something new. The swamp had always been a challenge, but it also had a habit of revealing surprises to those brave enough to dig. Only a week earlier, the team had uncovered a heavy hand-forged chain with a hook. This piece was buried deep in the swamp, preserved by time and mud. When a blacksmithing expert examined it, he estimated that it might go back to the 16th century. That alone was enough to raise eyebrows. A chain that old, in a place like the swamp, hinted at past work that involved lifting or moving heavy items. Perhaps it had been used to move cargo from a ship, or perhaps it had been used to hide something rather than retrieve it. No one could say for certain, but the evidence pointed toward human hands and careful planning. As the excavation moved to the southern edge of the swamp, something simple caught the team's attention. A stick sticking out of the old ground. It looked ordinary, but Rick and Billy knew better. On Oak Island, even the smallest thing could mean more than it seemed. They saved the stick for later study and pressed on. The soil beneath them was layered with peat and sand, arranged in a way that did not match natural formation. Rick noticed a piece of wood with an X-shaped cut, a style not used in recent history. Billy confirmed that the layers above and below the sand were not naturally placed. Someone had arranged them. This meant the land had been shaped by human hands long ago. Rick shared an idea with the rest of the team. What if this spot had been a landing area? A place where boats could come in, bring cargo, and unload it onto a platform. The shape of the land, the stone road, the old wooden pieces, and the deep layers all hinted at a constructed area. Dr. Spooner, the geologist who had studied the swamp for years, had long believed the swamp had been engineered. His theories now seemed more likely than ever. With curiosity pushing them forward, the team widened their excavation. The sound of machines filled the air until something caught their eye, a clear end of an old stone roadway. The stones were stacked, creating a finish point that looked deliberate. But the real shock came when Gary spotted something in the dirt. It was pottery. Old pottery. As the team dug by hand to avoid breaking any pieces, more and more fragments appeared. Each piece had its own color, pattern, and shape. Some had delicate markings. Others had smooth, glossy surfaces. These were signs of skilled pottery makers, not simple rustic work. The pottery raised an important question. What were finely crafted pottery pieces doing in a swamp? Why were they buried in layers that seemed to have been placed carefully long ago? If the swamp had been used to hide something, perhaps these items were left behind by those who built the stone pathway. Maybe they belonged to the people who worked on the cargo that had once passed through the swamp. Every shard hinted at wealth, skill, and purpose. As more pottery came up, the archaeologists noted that one or two vessels seemed complete enough to be restored. This meant that the pieces were not just random trash. They were likely part of something important. Their concentration in one spot suggested activity, work, or storage. Gary examined each piece closely, commenting on the glaze, the patterns, and the cracks. Every detail mattered. Every mark told a story.
Meanwhile, near the stone road discovered back in 2020, Rick, Alex, Gary, and Billy focused on expanding their search. The area had already delivered chains, wooden pieces, and fragments that looked like parts of barrels. The group believed more clues were buried nearby. Their instincts were right. Gary soon spotted another chain. This one had different sizes of links, big and small. The handmade craft showed age and skill. Rick and Alex agreed it was important. Gary suggested it might have been used for anchoring or moving cargo. Again, the idea of heavy items, large shipments, and organized activity came to mind. As they kept searching, the metal detector rang out with another signal. Soon, they uncovered a spike set into a piece of old wood. It had a unique shape that only older tools carried. Gary noted it could be from the 1700s or earlier. This hinted at structures from centuries past. Maybe part of a wharf. Maybe part of a ship. Fred Nolan, the old treasure hunter, had once said there was a dam-like structure in this very area. It seemed more and more possible that the team was uncovering what he had always believed was there. The discoveries continued. A fastener made of raw iron, signs of human construction, pieces of old nails, and everything pointed to the same story. This part of Oak Island was once busy with people working, building, and moving items. But what items, and why here? These questions continued to grow. When the team showed their findings to blacksmithing expert Carmen, he studied them with care. The iron fastener might have been used to hang lanyards or lighting in confined spaces. That suggested underground work or tight interior areas, not open ground. The next tool Carmen inspected seemed like a chisel, but he corrected that idea. It was used for building ships, for setting planks into frames. This pointed directly back to shipbuilding or ship repair. And again, this was taking place in the swamp area. When Carmen dated the tool, he estimated it was from about 1650 or earlier. The team paused. That would put it more than 100 years before the famous discovery of the money pit in 1795. That would link it to explorers, builders, or sailors from a much earlier time. The swamp was beginning to look less like a natural trap and more like a working harbor. With every new artifact, the swamp became less mysterious and more like a carefully designed work area. But the story did not end there. Across the island, in Lot 5, Rick and Gary made another stunning find. They returned to an area where they had already found Roman coins. Yes, Roman coins, nearly 2,000 years old, had been dug out of the soil. Nothing about that made sense, but it was real, and it pushed the mystery even further. During their search, Gary spotted an object and lifted it from the soil. It was heavy, shaped like a coin, and clearly old. He knew it was not a modern item. The excitement in his voice was clear. Rick felt it too. The area had already delivered rare ancient finds, and now a new piece had joined the collection. Lot 5 had become a treasure chest of strange items, Roman coins, ancient objects, and now more signs of early activity. As Rick examined the area, he wondered why so much history had piled up in one place. Who had been here? What had they brought with them? And why? When the artifact was examined by archaeologists, they realized it was lead, not a coin, but a bag seal. Bag seals were used on bales of goods, often military or industrial shipments. These seals date back to the 13th century in Europe. The one found on Oak Island had markings that read Iowa Packers, linked to London in the 1700s. The use of the letter I instead of J suggested an even older origin. Bag seals like this were used to lock and certify shipments, cloth, tools, goods, or supplies. The seal found on Oak Island might have been tied to military operations or massive shipments of material. This was not something a lone traveler would carry. It would have been attached to shipments that weighed half a ton. The mystery deepened. The analysis continued. Using X-ray tools, Emma studied the seal even further. She confirmed the lead composition and noted engraving marks showing letters and shapes. The more they studied it, the clearer it became that this was tied to an organized group, likely military, perhaps centuries old. But why was it on Oak Island? The puzzle grew more intricate as the team found more evidence. They uncovered lead shot from old firearms. They found a strange copper piece, which turned out to be a ramrod guide from a musket. Muskets were used from the 1500s onward, mostly by military forces. This guide showed markings that looked like Roman numerals. These markings reminded the team of symbols found at Smith's Cove decades earlier on the U-shaped structure. These parallels hinted at organized groups, careful work, and planned structures. The deeper they went, the clearer the picture became. Oak Island was not just a random spot where treasure hunters dug holes. It was a landing area. It was a place where workers came, built structures, unloaded cargo, and carried out detailed tasks. The swamp might have been a harbor.
Support heavy loads. The pottery and tools came from skilled hands. As the team continued their careful excavation, every discovery added another layer to the story of Oak Island. Each fragment, each piece of iron, each trace of human activity pointed to a place that had been carefully used and perhaps intentionally concealed centuries ago. The swamp, once considered an obstacle and a strange curiosity, now appeared to be a central hub of activity. Boats could have arrived at its edges, offloading heavy cargo along the stone road that led inward. The chains, hooks, and wooden beams all suggested careful engineering to move and protect valuable items. Gary's sharp eyes soon spotted more metal objects, partially buried beneath layers of peat and mud. One piece resembled part of a pulley system, though its exact purpose was unclear. Yet the craftsmanship was undeniable. Someone had made this with skill and intent. Nearby, smaller fragments of pottery continued to emerge, each one telling a subtle story. Some were plain, functional vessels, while others displayed artistry, intricate lines, and delicate curves. It was as if the swamp had served multiple purposes: a storage place, a workshop, and perhaps a hiding spot all at once. The team approached each artifact with care, using brushes, trowels, and metal detectors to ensure nothing was damaged. Rick and Marty observed the pattern forming in the landscape. The stone road, chains, hooks, and wood pieces were concentrated in a specific area, hinting at repeated use over time. They hypothesized that the swamp had been a carefully engineered harbor for centuries, designed to allow boats to come close to the shore and unload valuable cargo without revealing its presence to the outside world. If so, whoever built it had a clear understanding of logistics, construction, and concealment. This was not the work of amateurs. Meanwhile, the exploration at Lot 5 was equally revealing. The lead bag seal, Roman coins, and musket parts suggested long-standing human activity that spanned centuries. The seal, in particular, was remarkable. Its markings indicated connections to military or industrial operations, showing that Oak Island had attracted serious attention long before the money pit became legendary. Each new piece unearthed there confirmed that the island had been a site of planned, organized activity. Lead shot from firearms, copper ramrod guides, and other metallic artifacts told of people prepared for defense or hunting, but also perhaps of strategic planning for hidden treasures. One morning, as Rick and Gary dug near a circular depression, their metal detector rang with a new signal. The intensity suggested a solid object. With anticipation, they carefully unearthed a small box, encrusted with mud and time. Upon cleaning, it revealed a set of metal objects, fasteners, nails, and pieces of carved wood that appeared to be part of a single system. It seemed like a toolkit,
possibly left behind by those who built or maintained the structures in the swamp. This find underscored the thought that Oak Island had been an active working site, not just a place where random items were lost. As the days passed, the team's discoveries began to interconnect. The swamp, Lot 5, and even areas near Smith's Cove appeared to form a network of activity. Roman numerals on musket parts, similarities in construction techniques, and repeated signs of careful placement all hinted at an organized plan. It was as if centuries of history were layered over one another, waiting for patient investigators to untangle the story. The team considered historical records too. References to expeditions, trade, military operations, and ships passing through the region added context. Could Oak Island have been a strategic hideout for European operations in the New World? Could it have served as a storage point for treasures, goods, or even military equipment? While examining one section of the swamp, Gary discovered a small fragment of wood with deep grooves worn smooth over time. At first glance, it seemed insignificant, but upon closer study, it appeared to be a part of a larger mechanism. Combined with chains, hooks, and stonework, it hinted at cranes or lifting devices used to move heavy cargo. The engineering knowledge implied by such artifacts was sophisticated. Whoever built this had a clear understanding of weight, balance, and transportation, a testament to organized activity. Archaeologists Emma and Lanier focused on the pottery shards. They carefully documented each one, noting styles, glaze patterns, and thickness. The pottery came from different periods, some as early as the 16th century, others possibly from the 1700s. The varieties suggested long-term activity. People returned to Oak Island repeatedly over centuries, each leaving behind traces of their work. The artifacts painted the picture of a site that was more than just a temporary stop. It was a place of planning, labor, and purpose. Back in the swamp, the team uncovered another chain, thicker than the last, partially buried under peat and sand. Its links were uneven, showing signs of hand forging. Gary explained that it could have been used to anchor boats or lift cargo onto the stone road. Nearby, remnants of wooden barrels emerged, their metal hoops rusted but still intact. These barrels, once likely filled with goods, suggested a flow of materials that had passed through the swamp long ago. The more artifacts surfaced, the more evidence piled up for the idea that Oak Island had been a hub of hidden operations. Even the soil itself told a story. Layers of sand, clay, and peat appeared unnatural, almost deliberately arranged. Dr. Spooner had long suggested that the swamp was engineered, and these new findings seemed to confirm his theory. Every artifact, every piece of wood, and every metal fragment appeared placed with purpose. Human hands had shaped the swamp to serve as a secure storage and transportation area, perhaps to conceal cargo from outsiders. At Lot 5, new evidence continued to emerge. Another Roman coin surfaced, and nearby, more fragments of musket shot, parts, and lead shot appeared. The concentration of items suggested that this area had been used repeatedly, possibly as a storage or working space. The lead shot hinted at military activity, while the coins pointed to trade or collected wealth. Together, these finds painted a picture of a complex operation, stretching across decades or even centuries. Rick reflected on the connections forming between the swamp, Lot 5, and Smith's Cove. The artifacts told of repeated human presence, careful planning, and a desire to hide or protect valuable cargo. The thought that Oak Island had been intentionally engineered, not merely discovered by chance, was becoming increasingly likely. Each find was a piece of a puzzle centuries in the making. Among the discoveries, one of the most intriguing was a musket ramrod guide marked with Roman numerals. The marking matched symbols found decades earlier at Smith's Cove on a U-shaped structure. This connection suggested the different parts of the island were linked, perhaps as part of a coordinated storage or defensive system. The ramrod guide, combined with lead shot and bag seals, suggested both preparation and protection. The people who built these structures knew what they were doing. They planned for weight, transport, defense, and secrecy. As more days passed, the team's excitement grew. They continued to uncover chains, hooks, wood fragments, pottery, and metal objects. Every artifact strengthened the theory that Oak Island was once a carefully engineered harbor or storage area, used to move and protect goods long before the famous money pit appeared in local lore. Rick, Marty, Gary, and the rest of the team knew they were slowly piecing together a story that spanned centuries. Even the simplest discoveries carried meaning. A small piece of wood with a carved mark, a fragment of pottery with a design, a bent nail. Each spoke of human activity, planning, and intention. Together, they revealed that Oak Island had been far more than a curiosity. It had been a place of work, of hidden operations, and of carefully guarded secrets. The team continued to expand their excavation in the swamp and Lot 5, aware that each layer of soil could hide new evidence. As they worked, the story of Oak Island unfolded more clearly. A man-made harbor, stone roads to move cargo, chains and hooks to lift heavy items, pottery and tools
left behind by skilled workers, and coins and bag seals suggesting trade or military activity. Centuries of history were coming to light. With every artifact cataloged and analyzed, the team began to see the patterns more clearly. The swamp was not just a bog. Lot 5 was not random. Each find was part of a network designed for movement, storage, and protection. The artifacts suggested not just treasure hunting, but sophisticated logistical operations, hidden from sight for centuries. And yet, the mystery remained. While the evidence pointed to organized human activity, questions persisted. Who built these structures? What was the ultimate cargo? Why choose Oak Island? How many people were involved? Each artifact brought answers and new questions in equal measure. As Rick, Gary, and the team continued their work, they were mindful of the history surrounding them. Oak Island had fascinated explorers for over 200 years, yet these recent discoveries hinted that the island's secrets were far older, stretching back hundreds of years. Each chain, spike, pottery shard, and bag seal was a thread in a story waiting to be told. The swamp, Lot 5, and Smith's Cove together painted a picture of intentionality, purpose, and concealment. Oak Island had been more than a simple site of legend. It had been a hub of activity, carefully engineered to hide valuable cargo. Every day, as artifacts emerged, the team moved closer to understanding the scale and significance of the operations that took place long before modern treasure hunters arrived. Even after centuries of mud, peat, and time, Oak Island continued to reveal its history. Chains forged by hand, wooden beams cut with old techniques, pottery from skilled artisans, and Roman coins all pointed to a story that stretched across Europe and the New World. The evidence suggested trade, defense, and careful planning. Perhaps Oak Island had served as a secret hub for centuries, a place where cargo could be stored, moved, and protected. With each find, the team's understanding deepened. The swamp, once dismissed as a natural oddity, was likely a carefully engineered harbor. The stone roads, chains, and hooks showed deliberate planning. Pottery and tools revealed skilled labor. Bag seals and coins hinted at commerce and trade. And musket parts and lead shot suggested defense and preparedness.
As they documented every artifact, the team realized that the true story of Oak Island might never have been a single treasure, but a complex system spanning centuries. A system of storage, movement,